Okay. Um, there are, through this course, I think we've seen different methods of learning. Professors come in, take their classes. And this is an accelerator program. It's essentially how can all the inputs that you're giving, that the program is giving you, how can it sort of accelerate your journey? I think one other way of accelerating journeys is to learn through people who've experienced these inputs, who've actually practiced leadership in their careers, right? And learning through others, I think, is a very powerful method of learning for all of us. I think in that context, we have three youth icons, if I may call them. I'm sure they're not like a day older than 22. Look at the three of them. But have illustrious careers. And I'll introduce them. And what we're going to spend the first 1 hour and 15 minutes until the tea break is really listening to their own leadership journeys. What's been that track like? What are enablers that have come their way? How have they seized opportunities? I think most importantly, what are key shifts that they've been able to make to propel their own careers? I think that's really what we want to hear. And in the second half, we'll sort of shift gears a little bit and take it from there. So we have Shamik Trehan from DRF, we have Srikanth Viswanathan from Janaagraha, and we have a young budding leader, Santosh, who is Aritra alumnus from last batch. Okay. Um, so one of the things that I know Shamik will sort of be upset if I say this, but I think this is the forum that we should be looking at least I should be sharing this. Aritra would not have happened if Shamik was not there. I think he was a very, very key individual who sort of helped us through the ideation right up to date. So thank you, Shamik. Who's going? As you all sort of listen to these journeys, one of the things that would be really helpful for you to write down is what are your own leadership dilemmas that you want answered? Yeah? As you pursue your own careers in this sector, and what are challenges that you've experienced as individuals in the work that you're doing. So bring those up because I think that's what will help sort of bring the session alive.
Okay, you're all set. Good afternoon. Yeah. Okay. So we have 15 minutes from now, right? Okay. So I think I'm going to speak really fast. My name is Srikanth. For the last 7 years. 2 years ago, I took over a new role as Chief Executive of Janaagraha. I'm a convert from the dark side. I used to be a corporate professional before I joined Janaagraha. I worked in an audit firm and a bank. I'm an accountant by training. And before I joined the development sector, I was a terrible citizen. Right? After my school years, when I was quite active in the school, in your Interact Club or other volunteering opportunities, you could say something went wrong in life. Right? So for much of my adult life, I had not voted. The only time I voted before I joined Janaagraha was when I had chicken pox and I was confined home and there was an election. Right? So I said, okay, there was really no excuse not to vote, and the polling booth was like a few meters away from home. And I had volunteered only for 2 days. Right? And this was 14 years. For 14 years, I had volunteered for 2 days and I voted only in one election. So I was a terrible citizen. And then life changed with a move to the development sector. I'm not exaggerating this. I'm narrating my own personal, personal state of mind or personal experience. Life indeed has changed at many levels. So this is so for me, this has not been a career shift. Right? It has pretty much been a life shift with several changes on the family front, on the personal front, in the way I think, in the life choices that I have made, and so on. And I'm here to share some of those experiences, very little time, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll focus on some 5 lessons that are helping me presently navigate through this very fascinating journey, right? And I hope some of that sort of helps all of you. So essentially, the reason I moved was not because I didn't like my job. I really loved my job in the bank. And I was able to relate it very much to the day-to-day changes that were happening in the economy. Because I was in banking, I was in finance. However, there were 2 things. One is there was a huge disconnect between life at work and life outside of work. India being India, because when you get into work, it's like any other multinational corporation. You could be in any part of the world. Your office looks like you could be in any part of the world. And then it's almost like dystopia when you step out. Right? Life is very different. And then you say, I mean, what is the connection between what I do at work and the way life is at work and when I step out onto the streets? And that reconciliation can actually be quite traumatic at many times. Because you love work, and then you love your country and you step out onto your street and you're like, okay, I mean, this is like 2 different lives. How is this one single life? And so questions of career growth, questions of career progression at some point got overtaken by this desire to reconcile this in a more holistic manner. So, and essentially when you saw your career unfolding before your eyes and you realize that the complexity in your job actually doesn't increase very significantly, and the learning on the job does not increase in the same proportion with passage of time. Right? I would hazard and say that after the first 10, 15 years in your career, while most senior leaders will say we learn every day, the marginal growth in learning obviously dips. Right? And beyond that, the odds are high in other areas. Like money, like fame, like popularity, like leadership, responsibility, the rush of better quality of work. At least this is the way I saw it. Right? I'm not saying this definitively. We have experts